So thank you very much to my new friends in Naarm, Rainbodhi Naarm. My name's Bhante Akaliko, so I use he, him pronouns. I'm a queer Buddhist monk, and I'm the founder of Rainbodhi LGBTQIA plus Buddhist community. And I'm coming to you today from my previous residence, where I'm no longer residing, but I'm here again at Lokanta Vihara, the monastery at the end of the world, here on Barramadagal lands. This is the country of the Darug nation, and I just want to begin by paying my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, to recognize that this land was never ceded and always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So today I was invited to come and hang out with you. I had hoped to be with you all in person in Melbourne, but we looked at the flights and they were like hideously expensive. And so here I am virtually. But I really wish that I could have been with you today. And I hope that in the future I can come down and hang out, because it's much more fun. And all the best things that happen when you turn up to a meditation group happen in the corridors or out the front or after the thing is finished. So I feel like I'm missing out on the real thing about turning up to a meditation group, which isn't so much the meditation, even though that's important. But what is even more special is spiritual friendship. And I'm sure that you're aware that spiritual friendship has a really, really important part on the path. This is, the Buddha said, the entire path is spiritual friendship. And he was having a chat with his attendant, Ananda, and Ananda had said, spiritual friendship's like half the spiritual life. And the Buddha said, no, don't say that it's the entire spiritual life. It's because of good spiritual friends that we can come out of delusion, that we can abandon things that don't serve us, that we can develop wholesome minds and hear the Dhamma, learn wisdom, so that we can be the very best person we can. So it's because of associating with good people, having good spiritual friends, that we can transform our minds, that we can move away from suffering towards happiness and freedom. So this is the value of spiritual friendship. And this was the reason that I established Rainbodhi 4 years ago, to give my community a place where they could feel safe to be themselves, where we could share things that we understood, that mattered to us, where we could be sure that we were going to be respected for who we are, welcomed for who we are, and loved. It was so important to me to create a space where people felt that they could belong. And since Rainbodhi began those few years ago, a lot of people have expressed how important it is to them to know that there is a place for them in the spiritual world that recognizes both these aspects of themselves. The fact that they're a spiritual person and the fact that they're an LGBTQIA plus person, and that they get to have a place where they can allow these two things to coexist without fear, without worrying that there's some judgment, or without feeling that those parts of themselves might not be welcome. For me, it was actually a bit harder to come out as Buddhist than it was to come out as queer. A lot of my friends, perhaps like you, had really negative associations with religion, negative associations with anything spiritual, and they found it really difficult to accept that queer people could be involved in a religious pursuit. Buddhism has a slightly better reputation than a lot of other religions, but there's still a lot of work for us to do within our community. And so these are the kind of roles that I see Rainbodhi fulfilling. Firstly, that really important spiritual friendship, which is essential for the spiritual path. Safe place where we can belong. And then this work of advocacy within our own queer community, better understanding the needs and the barriers to participation for our queer family that exist within even queer spaces. And then to take this understanding and advocacy to our Buddhist centers, meditation groups, retreat centers, to try to do that advocacy for our queer family in those spaces. And then Rainbodhi also does a bigger picture advocacy, working with state and federal governments, writing submissions on religious discrimination legislation, appearing at parliamentary inquiries, which is not fun, and where you face a lot of really tough questions from people like Mark Latham, as I did a few years ago. And that advocacy, I think, is something that I didn't realize I would have to do, or that Rainbodhi has to do, but there's no one else doing it in this space. And so for that reason, I'd like to just acknowledge the hard work of people in your group who do this necessary work within the group itself, learning about our blind spots and how we can better serve BIPOC people, our trans and non-binary friends. And to do this work is really good. And I want to thank the organizers, the conveners, who have been keeping your group pumping along really nicely. And I see there's lots of great people there, and I wish I could be there with you. I'm so sad. But these people who are doing this work, this community connecting work, and this learning and advocacy work, it's really hard sometimes to do that. And so I just hope that we can all lend a hand and support each other whenever we can, because everyone's doing this in their spare time and it can be a bit of a burden. So Rainbodhi, since it was established, has gone on to become a bit of an international thing, with some groups popping up overseas. Perhaps the biggest is Rainbodhi Singapore, and there's people meeting all over the world and who are inspired by the work that Rainbodhi has done. And so I just want you to know that you're part of this incredible family of queer Buddhists. And for me, it was really surprising just to see how people around the world got behind the idea of Rainbodhi. And we published a guide to inclusion. I don't know if you've seen this guide, some of you probably have. So some drawings illustrations rather, by my friend Venerable Yoda, and written by me with a lot of input from various people in Australia and around the world, looking at how we can be more inclusive in our Buddhist spaces. And this guide has now been translated into Thai, with lots of extra information for the Thai cultural context. It's been translated into Polish, of all languages, Portuguese, even more random, and also Dutch. And I think it's going to be translated into French and a few other languages in the future. And I was really surprised by that, but it showed me that there really was a need for awareness of issues within our community, and that Buddhists and queer Buddhists were willing and able to do the work of inclusion. And so for many of you, I don't know if that is important to you or matters to you. Perhaps you just wanted a place to come and chill out and meditate with your friends, and that's enough. That's wonderful. That's amazing that we can do that. But I just wanted to give that background to Rainbodhi, especially the advocacy stuff, because I have a feeling that this advocacy piece is going to come up again and again in the next few years, and we're going to have these conversations over and over again with our broader community. And so that's why I thought I'd mention that. So just stay tuned to the Australian political landscape for more. And then today, I just wanted to offer a meditation with you, which is something that I like to do with various Rainbodhi groups when I meet. And that's a metta pride meditation. So most of you, I think, might have an idea what metta means. You might have heard of the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 4 abodes of the Brahmas, the 4 divine abidings, they're often called. And these are metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy or empathetic joy, and upekkha, this is equanimity. And so these are also known as the Chatura Apamanyas, the 4 immeasurables. These mental states are regarded as being boundless, infinite, immeasurable, right? So sometimes I don't know how it feels to you, but sometimes it feels like my compassion has limits, my love has limits, and my ability to enjoy others' success also sometimes has limits. And this is because we haven't purified our mind enough. We haven't developed fully the capability of this kind of mind state within ourselves. The reason for this is that we've still got hate and anger and ill will, resentment, irritation, loathing in our hearts. And these things are like clouds that obscure this beautiful shining light of these sorts of minds. These dark clouds cover up those beautiful minds within us. Sometimes it's really hard to see the love that exists in our hearts, the compassion that exists in our hearts. Partially this is just because we're really busy, we lead really full lives, we're always on the go. Part of it is because of those clouds. But the most important part, the area that we can do the most work, is in the development of these minds. For many of us, we haven't developed these minds. And that means we haven't practiced them in the crucible of our meditation. This is why meditation is known as bhavana, mental development. Meditation is the place where we have a safe space to turn our mind to these kinds of thoughts, emotions, love, kindness, compassion, joy. We have these small seeds in our mind of these mental states. And in our meditation, this is our opportunity to grow and develop those mind states. We do this by inclining our mind to these states. We focus on a feeling, a sensation, a thought associated with these mental states. We remain with that object for a long time. And as we do this, we give our attention to it. And there's a feedback loop that occurs It starts to grow and become deeper, richer, stronger. When we do this, the body and the mind become soaked in this beautiful state of love, compassion. And from there, we learn to radiate this love. We learn to broaden our mental experience of it so that it goes beyond our physical body, goes beyond ourself. And this is a turning point in our practice when we have this love in our mind. We then take our love and radiate it towards others. We include them, perhaps is a different way of putting it, into our love. Our own idea of self becomes dispersed, diffused. We start to merge with other living beings. And this is what transforms our love from a small, limited sort of love to the exalted, immeasurable kind of love. This love is not limited by number of people, of beings that we include in it, unlike perhaps our regular life where we have people we like, people we don't like, people we give love to, people we don't give love to. And so it's not limited by number, it's unlimited. And it's not restricted by distance. We have people in our orbit that we love and care for. In this practice, we don't restrict it to a number or to a location or a group or people we're invested in or a particular place or time. We develop a mind that is vast. We develop a love that is boundless. And this kind of love is very, very beautiful. And when we develop it to its fullest extent, this love can lead to extremely deep states of meditation. We feel a lot of joy and happiness, bliss with this mind of love. And this bliss, this beautiful feelings that exist in the mind, draw the mind through these pleasurable emotive states deeper and deeper into meditation until we get to very deep meditation known as samadhi. And all this comes from nourishing that little tiny seed of love that exists within us now. So this is why this practice is so important, so powerful, not only because it leads to very deep meditation, not only because it transforms the mind, not only because it overcomes hate and ill will, irritation, resentment. You can't have love and hate in your mind at the same time. You can't have resentment when you're experiencing this beautiful state of mind. We're simple beings in many ways. And these minds thrust out and expel those minds of hate and ill will. Those minds feel so small, cramped, miserable compared to the exalted mind that you develop through love, through the practice of loving kindness, through metta. They feel ugly and hot and bothered, those kinds of minds. But love is open and spacious, bright. It's joyful and happy. And so when we develop these minds, our mind of love will improve our relationship with ourselves. It'll improve our relationship with others. And it will even improve our relationships with people who are difficult for us and who are perhaps our enemies. This mind of love does not discriminate. It shines on everyone equally. And so that's why, as spiritual practitioners, it's so important for us to develop this mind of love. As queer activists, as some of you are, as advocates in our communities for our rainbow families, we're going to need this mind of love from time to time when we deal with difficult people, challenging people, when we encounter homophobia or transphobia in our communities. We're going to need this mind of love because we don't want for those experiences of resentment, irritation, hate, and ill will to overwhelm our minds. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be angry about homophobia or transphobia. I'm not saying that we shouldn't stand up and say this is bad, this has to stop. I'm not saying that we should allow transphobia or homophobia to exist. But we do have to make sure that our minds stay beautiful and strong, that we don't accidentally become that mind of hate which we experience from others. And so this is the challenge for us as meditators, as spiritual practitioners, as queer spiritual practitioners. The challenge sometimes will be for us to make sure that we stand up for what we believe, stand up for what is right, but make sure that our mind doesn't become overwhelmed by feelings of hate or ill will. And this is not for the other people, not for our enemies, not for those difficult politicians. This is for us. For when we have a mind of hate, anger, aversion, ill will, resentment, irritation, we're the ones who are suffering. And partially, this suffering will affect our ability to experience happiness and love. So when we experience homophobia, transphobia, when we read the news, when we listen to politicians, when we experience family or social prejudice, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel annoyed. It's okay for that anger to flash up. What we don't want to do is to become stuck with that mind. It's a mind of suffering. And sometimes this is quite difficult for us to accept. We kind of want to hang on to a lot of this hate, a lot of this ill will. But if you examine the kind of mind that we have when we're angry, when we're full of rage and irritation and hatred, it's not the kind of mind we actually want. Yeah. So although I think it's perfectly normal and natural for these things to arise in our mind once in a while, it's the ability to let go of them that makes us spiritual practitioners, that shows our development on the path, that separates us from ordinary people who would never think about trying to control their mind, who have never had the idea of transforming their mind, who aren't interested in coming out of suffering and moving towards freedom. And so just an image before we actually do this meditation of how we might let go of some of those thoughts that, if we're not careful, will overwhelm our mind. And remember that all those angry, bitter, grumpy old people that you see out there in the world, they didn't start that way. It was drop by drop, angry thought after angry thought, hate-filled thought after hate-filled thought, that they stained their mind with those thoughts over and over again until it became the very quality of their mind, their entire personality. And you see people like that in the world, right? You also see people who are joyous and happy and who are smiling and laughing and loving. And those people, they cultivated that kind of mind and they learnt where happiness was to be found. And so this image I want to share with you is the image of inscriptions, lines drawn, and how we can let go of those strong emotions like hate, anger, resentment, ill will. And so the Buddha said, he's particularly talking about anger, and he said there's three types of people in this world that can be compared to an inscription. The first is like a line drawn in rock, an etching, an inscription in rock. So this lasts a long time, right? Lasts a really long time. And so similarly, a person who is like this, when they get angry or there's ill will in their mind, it lasts a long time. They can't let it go. It sits in them, with them. It becomes them for a long time. And so this, the Buddha said, is like an inscription in the rock. The second is like a line drawn in the sand. So this is like someone who hangs on to anger or will for a little while, but eventually, just like that line drawn in the sand, which will be removed by the sea or by the wind, eventually they let it go. Not holding on as long as someone who's like that line drawn in the rock. They hold on to it for a bit, but eventually it goes. So that's better than the rock, right? But the Buddha said the best kind of person, the best kind of inscription is like a line drawn in the water. As soon as it's drawn, it disappears. And so this is how we can start to see when these feelings arise in our mind that we can let them go. Let them go quicker and quicker and quicker, not for the benefit of others, not because these issues aren't important and serious, but to protect our own minds from becoming overwhelmed or from experience the suffering that's attached to these minds. So when we let go of these things, it's like the clouds that I mentioned before that occlude and obstruct our bright, loving minds. These clouds become less and less frequent, less voluminous. And that heart of love can start to shine more brightly in ourselves. We've given it more space to exist. And we're better able to share this love with the people we care about around us, with strangers, even with our enemies, and share this love with all living beings everywhere. So this is the practice that we'll be doing today. Many of you will know it simply as metta or loving kindness. And today I'm going to teach a variation where I call it our pride metta. So we start by developing some love towards ourselves, and especially those parts of ourselves that we find difficult to love. For some of us, it's our bodies. For some of us, it's our behavior, our internalized trans or homophobia, that perhaps makes sitting with ourselves difficult, loving ourselves difficult. But if we can't experience this love within ourselves, we won't be able to share it with others. This is a starting place for us. This body, ourself, here and now. And then we'll develop this love for all the letters of the rainbow acronym. And we'll keep expanding this love out to other beings until we radiate this love, this kindness to all living beings everywhere. Does that sound okay? Can I get a thumbs up if we can do that? Do you want to pause now and ask some questions or make some comments or criticisms before we continue?
Bhante, I like to I have a question. You were saying about letting go, and I've also listened to a couple of your YouTube clips on spiritual bypassing, and I just was wondering about the intersection between spiritual bypassing and letting go, because I've been practicing non-attachment for many, many years, about 5 years. And, you know, letting go, I'm not attached, letting go. But I found that in letting go all the time, letting go of a lot of things, I found myself losing a lot of sight of myself and my feelings and what was right and what wasn't right for me. And I found myself bypassing myself. So how do you balance the process of letting go but not bypassing yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question, which is why I deliberately paused just now, because we need to overcome these doubts that we might have about the practice before we can let ourselves go into it. And it's a very important question, like, what are we letting go of? What are we holding on to? What are we grasping onto? What's good, what's bad? And so this is a hindrance for us in our meditation practice, not knowing what's right and what's wrong, not seeing what leads to wholesome results and what leads away from wholesome results. So we want to understand this very clearly. What are the things that are going to lead to wholesome results for me and others? And what are the things that lead to unwholesome, unskillful, unbeneficial results for me and others? And this is basically what that hindrance of doubt is, not being sure, not knowing what leads to happiness and what leads to suffering. Am I doing this right? I don't know. Is this the right thing to do? Does this guy know what he's talking about? Uh, can I meditate? Is this even for me? Like, these kind of questions really destroy your practice, right? It makes it really hard to make any progress. Someone the other day described it as like the worm in the apple, which is a nice one. The Buddha actually described it like muddy water, or like a lost traveler, hot, hungry, thirsty, and sick in the desert, you know, unsure of which way to go. So it is a really important thing to know what it is that we're doing in our spiritual practice, right? And the way we overcome doubt is by asking questions of reliable teachers, of whom we can trust, and by doing research ourselves, investigating, and also by reflecting and reviewing in our own minds on our practice. And this is something that people often don't do as part of their spiritual practice. They kind of sit down, get up, go away, get on the bus, get to work, and they never take the time to look at their practice, which is why I always encourage a process of reviewing and reflecting each and every time we meditate. So to answer your question specifically, yeah, letting go can be used in a really flippant kind of spiritual bypassing kind of way, where we're like, oh, just let it go, let everything go, okay? And this can have the effect of trivializing people's suffering, dismissing their genuine difficulties in their life, minimizing things like homophobia, transphobia, prejudice, for example. Just let it go. And so this is problematic, right? On one level, this is problematic. On another level, this practice of letting go goes far deeper than these surface level things that we experience in our life, such as, you know, our experience of society, our experience of even things like our social circle, our personality, our job, our all those things that kind of make up our life, make up ourself. This letting go is a very, very deep and very profound practice. It's how we transform our mind. So when I say letting go, I'm asking you to let go of the right things at the right time. Not the right things at the wrong time, or the wrong things at the right time, or the wrong things at the wrong time. And so there's a time, for example, where I speak out against transphobia and homophobia, and where I talk about how these things impact and cause suffering in the world. And I talk about my personal experiences. There's a time for that. There's also a time when I need freedom from those experiences so that I can have some peace and some happiness. It doesn't mean that they're not important, that they don't exist. It doesn't mean that these aren't like really significant parts of who I am. It just means that for these few minutes, I'm going to allow myself just to focus on my meditation subject. And that's what I mean by letting go. This kind of letting go prepares us for a much deeper kind of letting go, which is letting go of the body, letting go of this idea of self, letting go of all the things that we've been hanging on to. And this is some deeper Dhamma of the Buddhist path. For many people, still at the beginning of the practice, they're just happy if they can let go of thinking about work for 5 minutes, or better like 2 minutes, you know, or they're just happy to let go of some tension in the body. As we go deeper and deeper in our spiritual practice, we see what we've been holding on to. We understand the impact it has on our mind. And this is things like memories from the past, thoughts about the future, ideas of this body, clinging to ideas about this body, our sensory experience, our feelings, our thoughts, our perceptions, even our choices that we make, our consciousness. These are things that we hold on to and that we mistake for ourself. And so part of the learning that we do in meditation and in the Buddhist spiritual path is letting go of these versions of self, letting go of what we think we know, and entering into a space where we have some freedom from those views. And this is why we practice letting go. Because if we keep holding on to things from the past, or holding on to future versions of things we want to see happen, or hold on to this idea of this body which is changing and out of control, or hold on to our thoughts or feelings, then we're kind of stuck, and we end up with an experience of being that doesn't allow for freedom. And This is very deep Dharma and difficult to understand, but there's an experience of this world beyond this body. And this is where we end up when we're in deep meditation. And there's an experience of our life that goes beyond the kind of mental constructs we've made, and goes beyond those ideas of mind. In the same way that the description of loving kindness I just gave to you, which is beyond this body, beyond this self that is boundless, immeasurable. You know, we're able to glimpse these things, but we won't be able to do that if we have this very rigid view of ourself and our being. And so that's why we kind of contemplate this letting go. But this is something we can do in meditation. Like, I don't want you to start letting go of your responsibilities, like feeding the cat or making sure the kids go to school. Like, we don't let go of the wrong things at the wrong time. We have to understand what things we're trying to let go of and let go of the right things at the right time. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
So specifically for this meditation, the things that we're letting go of are those unwholesome, unskillful, unbeneficial thoughts of anger, hatred, ill will, resentment, irritation, thoughts of harm, thoughts of hurting. That's the kind of thing we want to let go of. If you've got those things in your mind, you're not going to have a very loving heart, right? So we need to let those things go in order to practice a mind of love. In some way, just by turning our mind to this experience of love and keeping our mind connected to it, this helps those thoughts disappear anyway. We suppress them through this positive experience. And then later on, when we detect these kinds of thoughts using our mindfulness, then we can compare them to, you know, this experience of love, and we can compare them to, you know, that experience of love to these experiences of hate, you know, anger, which is so tight and cramped and hot and boiling and bubbling and agitated, and we can see which way peace and happiness lies. So when these experiences come up in our mind, we have a chance to ask ourselves, do I want that in my mind? Do I want that experience of anger, hate, ill will in my heart? And that's when we can practice letting go. They're the things that we let go of to protect our mind, to protect others. So that's what we let go of in this meditation. And it's like when a train pulls up at the station, you know, it's like we see this hindrance of ill will coming our way, coming towards us. We have a choice. Do we get on that train? You know, if you do get on that train, you know that that train will take you to Anger Town, Hate Town. But if you just stay on the platform by letting go of, you know, reaching out, grabbing on, getting on that train, then that's how you protect yourself. You won't go to Hate Town. You don't get on the train. This is how we develop our minds through meditation. You start to see how these mind states appear, what they actually are, and the experience of them. And then we learn the ones that we want to let go of and the ones that we want to cultivate. And in essence, this is the entire Buddhist path, letting go of unhelpful, unwholesome states and cultivating beautiful, wonderful, lovely states of mind. And this is how we move from suffering and causing suffering to others towards freedom and happiness. Are there any other questions before we do some meditation?
I have one. Can you hear me? I was just wondering if you can speak a little bit about how to catch anger earlier. I'm often really good at looking at it retrospectively, but then I'm like, oh, fuck, I've missed it. So I'm already on that train, and I'm trying to find the emergency, but it's already in me, and I can feel it, and I'm hot, and I'm angry, and I'm enraged sometimes, and it's really shit. I'd like to work on being able to catch it earlier before it takes hold.
Yeah, good on you, because you kind of answered your own question in a way. Like, you described the experience of being angry, and you said it was really shit, and that you feel hot and bothered and annoyed and like feels gross. And so what you've started to build up in your mind is an understanding of what we call the drawbacks, or the nivaranas, the drawbacks, the disadvantages. So when we actually start to understand these disadvantages, this is firstly how we work to abandon those mind states when they've arisen. It's like our mindfulness kicks in and we're like, this is gross, this is ugly, this is not a good look on me. And so this will help us abandon those mind states when they've already arisen. And the way we prevent those mind states from arising, this is the skill that we develop in mindfulness, developing strong mindfulness, so that when these things do arise in our mind, we catch them before they overwhelm us. So this means that we do have to develop this skill of mindfulness. And this means being in touch with our feelings, in touch with the bodily sensations of anger, in touch with the mental experience of anger. And so that when it arises, we can catch it. And it's essential that we have this understanding that this is a kind of mind I don't want. Because there is an enjoyment, isn't there, to anger? There is an enjoyment to hate. We love it. It feels good, right? It feels powerful. We feel strong. We could do anything. In the court of our own mind, we can punish people. We can hurt them, and no one can stop us, and we can enjoy it. And this is the danger, right? Like, for us, this is a real danger. And so it's quite enjoyable, this experience of hate sometimes. And so for many of us, it will take a long time for us to see just how bad it can be, because we're too busy enjoying it. And so we don't start to recognize those disadvantages, which you just described, of actually it's a bit shit, and actually I feel hot and bothered, and I look like this, like we can't see those disadvantages. And so the escape is firstly this understanding these minds are not good. They're bad, they're a hindrance, they lead to suffering for me, they will lead to suffering for others, they obstruct my wisdom, they cause so many problems, and they don't lead to enlightenment. They won't lead to awakening. These kinds of minds don't lead to awakening. So we understand the drawbacks. And then as I said before, if you want to prevent it, then you just got to get really good with your mindfulness. It's like a muscle, mindfulness. So you need to build it up. And especially when you've been doing a lot of meditation, your mindfulness grows very strong. And you become much more aware through this practice. And then you're more likely to spot these things trying to sneak into your mind. And when you spot them, you need to know how to respond. And that's that letting go. That's that discriminating mind that understands cause and effect. Will this lead to positive states? Will this lead to my happiness? No, then I'm not going to get involved. I'm not letting the train pull up to the station. So yeah, that's kind of what we've got to do. And so this is part of our right effort, which is the sixth factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, Samavayama, right effort, where we prevent unarisen, unwholesome states from arising in the mind. That's the job of mindfulness. And we abandon those already arisen, unwholesome states. So when it's there, we let it go. You know, that's that prevention. Sorry, that the abandoning. That's the letting go. That's the understanding the drawbacks. And then we want to cultivate, develop wholesome states that haven't yet arisen. Like now I'm going to practice love. And then we want to maintain those states. So these are the four right efforts. And this is part of the meditation path. And that's why it's such an important thing to develop. And so then when you start to see this in your meditation practice, more and more, your mindfulness is strong. It sees the hindrance of hate arising in the mind. It understands this isn't good, lets go, doesn't get involved. Then you'll find that in your personal life outside of your meditation practice, your mindfulness will still be strong and steady, and that you'll be able to catch it when you're not meditating too. But seeing it for yourself in your mind, in the safe place of your meditation practice, is the surest way to recognize the drawbacks and to see the disadvantages clearly in your mind, and also a place where you can learn to practice that art of letting go so that you don't get overwhelmed. And then you can compare those kinds of minds with the kind of peace and calm and beautiful mind states that we have when we don't have those things in our mind. And then you can work out which way happiness and freedom lies and which way suffering and harm lies. That's why the meditation practice is so incredibly important for us, because that gives us the place to see what's going on really clearly with a microscope. When we're walking around the world, our mind isn't that sharp and we miss a lot of this important data and we tend to react in unskillful ways. So yeah, so very long answer to your question. I hope it makes sense. So we can do more questions afterwards if you want, but maybe now's a good chance to do some meditation. Yeah? Okay, good. Oh. So we'll take 20 minutes to do some metta meditation with the theme of pride today. So why don't you take a few moments to set up your posture, find a nice comfortable position. So perhaps you've got a cushion, maybe you're seated on a chair. Regardless of the posture you're in, just take a few moments to settle in, to find that really nice, comfortable place where your body feels good, where you feel relaxed and comfortable. This comfort is so important to have as part of our meditation. We want to feel good. We want to be at ease, soft, and comfortable. We want to feel all the muscles, all the bones of the body relaxing. So just take a few moments to allow yourself to arrive here now in this present time and to relax, soften, release all of that tightness and tension, to let go of the past, so that you can have freedom from the past. Let go of the future, thinking, planning, worrying, so that you can have freedom from the future. By letting go of the past, letting go of the future, we can be here now. We can be present, aware. And so we relax this body here and now. Softening, releasing, letting go. So just keep relaxing and softening for the next few minutes. Now we begin our practice of love. You are a good person. You are. You are a good person. You are a person deserving of happiness. You are a person deserving of love. You are. You deserve happiness. You deserve love. There's some happiness, there's some love within you right now. Maybe it's small, dull, hidden, hard to see. But it is there because you are a good person. Person who works on their mind. And so we begin by acknowledging our goodness. And by remembering, yes, I want to be happy. And this desire to be happy is an act of love to yourself. You deserve love. You deserve to be happy. And we'll take that small seed of love, that little bit of happiness in your heart, and we'll grow it and make it big. So big, it'll fill the universe. And so we say these words. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. We mean it. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. As we say these words, we allow ourselves a little smile on your face, a smile in your heart. Yes, yes, I want to be happy. Yes, may I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. This is an act of love towards yourself. Kind of love that is unconditional. And you feel it, this soft, warm, kind, tender, feeling of love within your heart. That feeling of love, kindness, can be seen like soft, glowing light, warm, gentle too. Just like that feeling at the center of your chest. Visualize this light, this love, and that special feeling, soft, warm, tender feeling of kindness, of love towards yourself. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. And you keep smiling as that feeling of love, that soft light grows stronger, brighter. It soaks the entire body in love, in light. Every part of you, every part of you deserves love. And you give it to yourself, soaking this body, soaking your entire being in this beautiful, soft, calm, warm light of love. Feeling the kindness, allowing that light to infuse every part of your body, all of your being, suffused in light, in love. May I be happy. May I be happy. May I be happy. So whatever gender, sexuality, whatever your status, whatever your relationship status, your health status, whatever problems, personalities, whatever wonderful, difficult, challenging, amazing parts of you there are. Just allow yourself to love each and every bit of you and let it feel good. And from that goodness, from that place of happiness, that place of love, that light at the center of your chest grows brighter, grows colorful. It radiates beautiful rainbows, spectrums of color, We disperse this love, this rainbow light out into the world. May all lesbians be happy. May they experience this love. May all gays be happy. May they experience my love. May all the bis and pan people be happy. May they experience love. May all our trans friends, our non-binary, all gender diverse folks, may they be happy and experience this love. May all our queer and questioning family be well, be happy. May they experience love. And our intersex friends, whether queer or straight, may they experience love. And asexuals, may they be happy. May they experience my love. And so we send this love, this beautiful rainbow light to our queer family everywhere. Feels good to share my love with them. My happiness is their happiness. Their happiness is my happiness. And our love, this rainbow light, grows bigger and stronger, radiates outwards, covering more and more of the world. We include our allies wherever they are, whoever they are. May they be happy and experience love. and even those beings who are difficult, challenging, whose hearts are full of ignorance and hate. May those beings learn love from me. May they experience this love. May they have love and kindness in their hearts. We make this love, this light, rainbows covering the whole world, infusing this earth and all of the beings here with our love. May all beings on earth be happy. This love, our love, is so strong, so bright, colorful. It fills the darkness of space. It reaches out through the solar system, through the galaxy, into the furthest reaches of the universe. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings experience this boundless love, this infinite love, this love without discrimination, without prejudice, free from hate and ill will, this abundant, exalted, immeasurable love. Love that fills the universe. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Now we draw that mind, those beautiful rainbow lights back from the edges of space, back to our galaxy, back to the solar system, back to Earth, back to this place that we are in right now, surrounded by friends, back to this body, sitting here, allowing that rainbow light to settle back in the center of your chest as you allow that feeling of love fade. Let go. Knowing that this love is always there inside of you whenever you need it. It is there for yourself, for others. Knowing that this love can fill a universe and it's there in you. And so now we, with our eyes closed still, just take a moment to review and reflect what just happened in your mind. How was the meditation for you? Do you feel different now from when you began? If so, why? What happened? What did you do with your mind? And so now we can relax our awareness and we can come back to the room, and when you're ready, we can open the eyes. So this is a practice of love, and I hope that you're feeling some of the love and it'll be some benefit for you now or in the future. And so perhaps some of you might have some questions. Got a few minutes left. If you want to ask anything, you can feel free.
I think I'm too relaxed.
I have a question. Are we on mute?
No.
Tell you what, you're not on mute, but what I'll do now is I'll press pause on the recording so that people can speak freely.